So good evening, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday night meditation, coming to you from Vajrayana Institute. The cold weather's coming, but, it's here. Today wasn't too bad, was it? So I hope everybody is well and staying safe and looking after one another. So we usually begin with just calming, settling the body by letting go of any tension. So begin by making sure that you're sitting comfortably. Doesn't matter whether you're on a chair or on a cushion on the floor. It's important that your spine is straight but not rigid, and that the body is relaxed. So there's a lot of places where we hold tension in our body. So let's just do a scan, and anytime we find little spots of tension, we're going to release that tension with the out breath and imagine that it just dissolves into space. So starting at the top of the head, moving down over the forehead. Just check to see if you're frowning. When we have live classes, I notice that some students are concentrating and they're frowning to help them concentrate. So just check to make sure that you're not doing that. Be aware of your forehead, your temples. And breathe normally and naturally. And moving down to the eyes, letting go of any tension around the eyes. And relaxing the eyes. Normally for shamatha meditation, ideally when we're doing the breathing meditation, we have our eyes just a little bit open and we have the chin just a little bit tucked in so that your gaze falls just to the floor in front of you. And your gaze is very soft and relaxed, just like when you're daydreaming. So you're not kind of screwing up your eyes to try and focus on anything. So relax the muscles around the eyes and relax the eyes themselves. And moving down over the cheekbones, relaxing the muscles around the mouth, relaxing your jaws. That's another favourite spot when we concentrate. Often, unconsciously, we clench our jaw. So just check. A good way to counter this is to have your mouth just a little bit open. So relaxing your mouth, your jaw, chin, your throat. And going back to the top of the head and moving down the back of the head. To the base of the skull. Back of the neck. Tops of the shoulders. You can release tension in the shoulders by lifting your shoulders up, tightening them a little bit, and dropping them down. You can do that 2 or 3 times. And ideally, shoulders should be slightly back so that you're not hunched over. I'm exaggerating, but yeah, the shoulders need to be back. But again, relaxed. Check the shoulder blades. And then go from the base of the skull all the way down the backbone. Feeling the strength of the backbone, how it's supporting your body. Travel all the way down to the buttocks. And coming back to the tops of the shoulders. And the front of the body, the top of the chest. A sense of softness, openness. Diaphragm, belly, and the pelvic area. So notice the contrast, the strength of the spine and the softness of the front of it. And just breathe normally and naturally. Come back to the shoulders. Travel down the arms to the elbows. Then to the wrists, palms of the hands, back of the hands, and fingers. Go all the way to your fingertips. Then starting at the hips, move down to the knees, then the ankles, top of the feet, soles of the feet, all the way to the tips of your toes. Enjoy the feeling of the body at ease, relaxed, calm, supported, safe. And now allow your awareness to take in the whole body. Tips of your toes all the way to the top of your head. So now with a calm, still body, and an alert mind. Let's set a very positive motivation for joining this meditation this evening. And with the understanding that we're all in this huge family called humankind. So we're all brothers and sisters from that point of view. And there's nobody who wants to suffer. And everybody wants to be happy. And it's the same for all the other life forms on the planet. Even insects, they run away from danger. The cats know the warmest places in the house when the weather's cold, and the coolest places when the weather's hot. So there's the shared wish that all living beings have to avoid suffering and to be happy and comfortable and safe. So let's open our hearts and think that we're doing this meditation session, of course, for ourselves, because we are one of the beings who wants to be happy, but also for all other living beings on the planet. So with that motivation, we're going to do some breathing meditation. And so our only task is to keep the awareness with the breath and to notice when the awareness moves away and is distracted by a thought, by a sound, by an itch, whatever it is, a bit of an ache in your knee. So whenever the mind is distracted, without judgment and criticism, we bring the awareness back to the breath. So one analogy is that the breath is like the horse and our awareness is the rider. So no matter how many times we fall off, we need to patiently get back on. And so do your best to be aware of the whole of the in-breath and the whole of the out-breath, focusing either at your nostrils or the rise and the fall of the abdomen, whichever is most comfortable for you and most effective. So let's begin. Remember, we don't push thoughts away, but we don't run after them either. The moment you notice that a thought has distracted you, pulling you into the past or rushing into the future or even worrying about the present, just drop the thought and bring the awareness back to the breath. There's a technique you can use called labeling the thoughts, and then they kind of pop like a bubble. So if you label them, remembering, worrying, planning, that also helps to disperse them, dissolve them. It's quite interesting because your body is still relaxed. But your mind needs to be very alert. So it's important to have an alert mind, but without tension. You won't be struck by lightning if your mind wanders. But the moment you notice that this has happened, bring the awareness back. So the most common object to focus on when we're doing shamatha meditation, single point of concentration, is the breath. So might be our motto could be the complete breath and nothing but the breath. So have a little stretch now if you need to. A sip of your nice warm drink. And we'll move on to do some analytical meditation. So we're going to look at dealing with negative energy. So as our mindfulness develops, we become increasingly sensitive to our thoughts and feelings, including our negative states of mind, such as anger, irritation, pride, depression, desire, and so on. Why are these considered negative? It is not that anger or desire are inherently evil, or that we should feel ashamed when they arise. They are negative because they are delusions, distorted conceptions that paint a false picture of reality, and because they lead to unhappiness, confusion, and problems. The root cause of negative emotions is this false idea of an inherent, graspable, solid existence, and we impute this onto everything. And this misconception gives rise to attachment to whatever appears pleasant, aversion or anger toward whatever is unpleasant or painful, and a kind of uncaring ignorance about everything else. So our mind then divides everyone and everything in the world around us into friend, enemy, and stranger. And these three mental toxins in turn branch out into all our other negative states of mind. That is attachment, anger, and ignorance. However, like all your experiences, negative emotions are impermanent. They're not fixed and they're not concrete. They are simply mental energy, just like love and joy, whose nature is clear and non-material. Sometimes you might feel overwhelmed by them, and you doubt whether you can ever control your mind at all. But don't worry. Delusions come and go in your mind. They are not you. Usually, we either completely identify with our anger, for example, without any clarity or understanding at all, or suppress it altogether, refusing to acknowledge what is going on. Both approaches, getting caught up in the emotion or suppressing it, are unskillful and only make matters worse. A more skillful approach is to honestly acknowledge the presence of the emotion, but step back and observe it in a detached way with the calm spaciousness of meditation. With mindfulness and awareness of its nature, how it is just a momentary experience in our mind, not something solid and fixed, and not me, we may be able to just let go of it and let it pass out of our mind. But letting go is not always easy, especially if the emotion is habitual or very strong. If this is the case, we can use some methods to analyze the emotion, to see how it is mistaken, and to transform our mental state into one that is more realistic and positive. Dealing with anger or any other negative emotion in this way becomes a beneficial learning experience. But for some people, or for some problems, it may be difficult to be your own therapist. Analyzing and transforming a powerful emotion such as anger requires a fair amount of skill and wisdom. I want to seek help from a spiritual teacher, a good therapist, or a wise and caring friend. No one else can change your mind. That is something only you can do. But talking with others can give you some new, helpful ideas and perspectives to work with. So we're going to look first of all at practical ways of dealing with attachment. An important first step in working with emotions is recognizing and identifying them. Sometimes our mind is like a thick jungle of disturbing thoughts and emotions. It's hard to see really what's going on. With mindfulness, honesty, and discriminating intelligence, we can start to identify what's what. That's anger. That's desire. That's fear, and so on. Once we know what we're up against, we can choose the appropriate methods. The second step is having a healthy, balanced attitude toward the negative emotions. Attitudes to avoid include guilt, self-hatred, or self-judgment, and identifying with the emotion. For example, I am my anger, which leads us to be obsessed and acted out. We can avoid these by remembering that delusions are impermanent, coming and going in our mind like clouds in the sky, and that they are not our true nature. The real nature of the mind is pure, free of delusions, like a clear, cloudless sky. Methods that we use provide new ways of looking at these emotions. They're not magical solutions to what are, after all, difficult problems. Dealing with negative energy is hard work, but with practice and patience, it is possible to gradually change our attitudes as a first step to changing our actual experience of people and situations. If we become familiar with these methods in meditation, it will be easier to apply them spontaneously when the need arises. So let's look at the delusion of attachment. To want something and not want to be separated from it, very broadly, this is attachment. Attendant to it is the false assumption that having whatever it is we want will bring satisfaction. This is why attachment causes problems. Attachment is difficult to detect and even more difficult to find fault with. We think it is the road to happiness and satisfaction, but fulfillment of desire is an illusion. Desire leads to more desire, not satisfaction. We may be able to see how attachment to alcohol, drugs, or money leads to problems rather than happiness. But we may wonder, what is wrong with attachment to people? Wouldn't life be empty and meaningless without family and friends? This question arises because we confuse attachment with love. Attachment is concerned with my needs, my happiness, while love is an unselfish attitude concerned with the needs and happiness of others. And most of the time, our love is mixed with attachment because we do not feel adequate or secure on our own and try to find wholeness through another. But when a relationship involves attachment, problems inevitably arise. We become dependent on the good feelings and comfort of the relationship and then suffer when it changes. Real, lasting happiness can only be found within ourselves, and we will never find it as long as we lean helplessly on others. A relationship free of unrealistic grasping is free of disappointment, conflict, jealousy, and other problems, and is fertile ground for the growth of love and wisdom. Overcoming attachment does not mean becoming cold and indifferent. On the contrary, detachment means learning to have relaxed control over our mind through understanding the real causes of happiness and fulfillment. And this enables us to enjoy life more and suffer less. So how do we deal with attachment? First, we contemplate the faults. Examine carefully. Bring to mind, a time when you were feeling strong attachment. This mind is excited and full of unrealistic expectations. It glosses over the facts and deals with projected fantasies. It cannot see things clearly and is unable to make intelligent judgments. Is this happiness? Also, the consequences of attachment are not peace and satisfaction, but disappointment and desire for more of the same. Think of the suffering you experience when you separate from an object of attachment. We all know the pain of relationships that did not work and the grief that is compounded by attachment. So we need to recognize that attachment is not a peaceful, clear state of mind, and that it leads to dissatisfaction and unhappiness. And making a habit of it leaves on our mind stream imprints to experience more problems in the future. Attachment really clouds the mind and prevents us from recognizing its faults. It is very important to be honest with ourselves, to penetrate attachment's facade and analyze its real nature. So recall that all things are impermanent. By their nature, they change from moment to moment and will inevitably perish. The object of your attachment will not always be attractive and pleasing. At some point, it will be old and faded and worn. Visualize it like this and check if your feelings about it remain the same. And how would you feel if you lost it altogether? The pleasure you experience is impermanent too. For how long do you really feel pleased and satisfied with any one object? When we recognize that external things cannot give us lasting happiness and satisfaction, our attachment to them will lessen, and we'll probably enjoy them all the more. The next thing we can do is remember the inevitability of death, and that it could come at any time. Imagine how you will feel about separating forever from your objects of attachment. Loved ones, enjoyments, possessions. Not only are they unable to help you, they can't stop you from dying, but if your attachment to them will upset your mind and hinder a peaceful death. And the best remedy to attachment, and all other delusions, in fact, is to think about emptiness. Emptiness means that nothing exists independently. Investigate the I, capital I, that experiences the attachment. What is its nature? Try to locate it in your body or mind. Examine also the object of attachment. Is this person or thing inherently wonderful and pleasing? If so, why doesn't everyone appreciate it? Can you see how your mind exaggerates and gets excited about the object? Try to see that both the I and its object are empty of inherent existence. They do not exist in the way they appear. They don't exist in and of themselves. This might sound pretty unconvincing, especially when attachment is strong, but consider it carefully. Just thinking about emptiness is useful and helps us to gradually understand what it means to loosen the grasp of our attachment. A remedy for attachment to food is to contemplate the suffering experienced by all the beings involved in its preparation. Animals are killed to provide us with meat and fish. Innumerable small animals and insects are killed in the cultivation, fertilization, and spraying of the grains and the fruit and the vegetables that we eat. Recall the hard work of the farmers and the fishermen and the fruit pickers, and the factory workers and the truck drivers and the shop assistants and the cooks. So try to eat mindfully with appreciation for all these beings' kindness and sacrifice. So remember, attachment exaggerates the good quality of the object and doesn't want to be separated from it. And it brings only suffering. It's got nothing to do with love. Attachment is saying, I want you to make me happy, especially with regard to another person. But also a lot of material objects, we look at them and believe that they're going to make us happy. Whereas love says, I want you to be happy. So don't confuse them. And a very easy way to check whether you're attached to anything is to mentally hold it in your hand, whether it's a person or some other object. And if you can honestly say, if I have this, that's fine. And if I don't have it, that's okay too. So that's a very good way to check whether you're attached. And then acknowledging the attachment and seeing that it's completely different from love. So let's work very hard on not being attached to anything. Remember, attachment exaggerates the good qualities and refuses to see the faults in the object. So it's a distorted mind. So thank you for joining me, and let's finish off by dedicating the positive energy that we've created this evening to the happiness of all beings on this planet. And let's pray that this virus is able to be overcome and dissipate, and that everybody will work together to stop its spread. So may you all be well and happy. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, just check our website for our program. Anybody who's thinking of tuning in tomorrow, Wednesday at 10:30, this class will be on Zoom. It's not on YouTube. So might be I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, good night.